Secrets to overcome negative thoughts and stay optimistic. Life has never been a smooth journey. There are moments when we feel as though we are walking on a path filled with sunlight and flowers, yet a single unexpected event can cause everything to collapse. Failure, loss, betrayal, or illness, all of these can strike without warning, pushing us into days of darkness, confusion, and disorientation. In such moments, many ask themselves, why is this happening to me? Why is life so unfair? But if we look deeper, we will realize that it is precisely these adversities that become our most valuable lessons, our opportunities to grow, to mature, and to discover the hidden strength within. True strength does not mean never falling, but rather the ability to rise again after each fall, to keep walking with a determined heart and a clear mind. The journey from collapse to becoming a silent warrior is a long and demanding path. It requires us to learn how to face pain, to strengthen our willpower, to control our emotions, to think strategically, and ultimately, to discover inner stillness. Each stage of this journey not only makes us stronger but also brings us closer to true freedom, freedom from fear, from external circumstances, and from the chains of our own fragile ego. In the course of life, every one of us has been overwhelmed by streams of negative thoughts, worrying about the future, fearing failure, or blaming ourselves for imperfection. Normally, we respond in two familiar ways, either by suppressing and rejecting those thoughts, or by letting them repeat endlessly in our minds, leaving us drained and exhausted. But according to the teachings of the Buddha, the first step to overcoming these mental storms is not to resist them, but to recognize and acknowledge them for what they are, just thoughts, not who we truly are. In mindfulness, thoughts are compared to clouds drifting across the sky. They come and go, never permanent, and never the vast sky itself. When a negative thought arises, we can pause for a moment and gently name it. This is worry. This is fear, or this is anger. With this simple act, we create a gap between me and the thought. That distance allows us to see that these thoughts neither define us nor have absolute power over us. Instead of fighting against thoughts or letting them consume us, we can observe them with calmness and compassion. I see you, but you do not decide who I am. This attitude opens a space of freedom within the mind, a space where we can choose our response wisely, rather than reacting unconsciously. And it is from this awareness that the door to inner peace truly opens. Life is never without difficulties and challenges. Yet the difference in how people experience them does not lie in the events themselves, but in how they perceive them. One circumstance can be a tragedy for one person but an opportunity for another. In Buddhist teachings, this relates to right view, the ability to see things clearly, without being clouded by pessimism, fear, or personal bias. When faced with hardship, many people's first reaction is to complain, "This is too difficult. I can't do it." Such thinking makes us feel small and powerless in the face of adversity. But if we change our perspective, shifting from resistance to acceptance, everything changes. We may tell ourselves, "This is hard, but it is an opportunity to strengthen myself, to grow wiser." In that moment, adversity is no longer a wall blocking us, but a step that elevates us higher. Changing perspective does not mean denying hardship or painting over reality with false optimism. Buddhism does not teach us to avoid the truth, but to recognize and uncover the deeper meaning within it. Every obstacle carries a lesson, every failure contains the seed of growth. What matters is whether we dare to see that seed. A simple practice is to ask ourselves, is there another way to see this situation? What can I learn from this? With just a shift in the mind, the entire world before us changes. For ultimately, happiness or suffering does not lie entirely in circumstances, but mainly in the lens we choose to use to view life. One of the greatest sources of suffering comes not from the outside, but from the words we whisper to ourselves each day. Many constantly self-criticize and judge, "I'm not good enough. I always fail," or "I have no worth." Such self-talk silently sows negative seeds in the mind, draining confidence, shrinking our spirit, and making us give up easily when faced with challenges. In Buddhism, the mind is compared to a garden. If we allow the weeds of negative thinking to grow unchecked, they will eventually cover and dry out our mental soil. To change, we must consciously sow new seeds by practicing positive affirmations. Instead of repeating limiting words, we can nurture healthy thoughts. "I am capable of facing this challenge. I am growing stronger every day," or "I deserve love and respect." At first, these words may feel strange or forced. But just like seeds planted in the earth, with daily care they will take root and grow, becoming firm beliefs. More importantly, we should learn to speak to ourselves as we would to a close friend. When a friend falls, we do not scold them, instead, we comfort and encourage them. So why are we often so harsh and merciless with ourselves? Compassion is not only for others, it must begin with ourselves. When we affirm and speak to ourselves with loving words, we are practicing self-compassion, one of the most important principles of Buddhism. Over time, these affirmations gradually rewire the mind, making confidence and optimism our natural state. From there, we step into life not with fear, but with openness, confidence, and serenity. The human mind is highly influenced by its surroundings. What we hear, see, and consume daily leaves imprints on us, whether we realize it or not. Buddhism calls this conditions, the factors that nourish or wither the seeds within us. If we live constantly surrounded by complaints, criticism, or negativity, those seeds will soon sprout, darkening our minds. Conversely, when we choose a healthy environment, like planting seeds in fertile soil, our mind has the chance to flourish with joy and positivity. This begins with our relationships. We should ask, do the people around me encourage and uplift me, or do they add more burdens and weariness? The Dharma teaches about the Sangha, a community of those who nurture mindfulness and support one another in growth. When we stay close to positive, compassionate, and understanding people, our hearts are naturally nourished and become more resilient. A positive environment is not only about people, but also about what we consume daily: books, music, films, or social media. If we constantly absorb negative news, pointless arguments, or harmful content, our minds will easily sink. Instead, we can choose inspiring books, soothing music, or mindful knowledge-sharing platforms. Even our living space matters. A tidy room with natural light, a few fresh flowers, or an uplifting quote can brighten the spirit each day. Just as seeds can only sprout in good soil, our minds also need a wholesome environment to grow. By consciously surrounding ourselves with positivity, we are laying a strong foundation for a life filled with joy and radiant energy. Negative thoughts are like a spiral. The more we think, the more powerless we feel. The more powerless we feel, the deeper we sink. If we only sit still and hope they vanish, we can easily become trapped in this cycle. This is why Buddhism speaks of right effort, using wise effort to nurture wholesome states and transform unwholesome ones. In other words, instead of surrendering, we must take action to break the cycle of negativity. Action does not always mean something grand. Sometimes, just a small step is enough to interrupt the stream of thoughts. For example, we might get up and take a walk, breathe deeply outdoors, or simply tidy up our desk. Changing the environment and moving the body helps shift energy, pulling the mind out of its grip on negativity. A clean, orderly space often reflects and nurtures a calmer, clearer mind. We can also engage in present-centered activities, cooking a meal, tending plants, journaling, or doing something creative. These small actions help us focus on the here and now, bringing a sense of accomplishment and control, which restores confidence. Connection is also crucial. Meeting friends, sharing with loved ones, or joining a positive community reminds us that we are not alone. When we open up to others, the energy of encouragement and compassion helps us stand firmer. Most importantly, action reminds us that we are not bound by our thoughts. We can redirect our energy, consciously creating a new spiral, the spiral of positivity, creativity, and growth. Through each step of action, we gradually regain serenity and inner strength. In difficult times, our minds often focus only on what we have lost, on what is lacking or unfair. This focus intensifies suffering and dims hope. To break free from this cycle, Buddhism encourages the practice of gratitude, a key to transforming suffering into peace. Gratitude is not the denial of pain, but a deeper way of seeing that helps us recognize the positive still present around us. A breath of fresh air, a glass of cool water, a listening friend, or a roof over our heads, all are gifts we often take for granted. When we pause to appreciate them, our hearts soften and are no longer entirely consumed by negativity. A simple practice is to spend a few minutes each day writing down 3 things we are grateful for. They may be very small: the smile of a stranger, the warmth of morning sunlight streaming through the window, or the sense of peace at the day's end. This habit trains the mind to seek and recognize beauty in everyday moments. Gratitude also changes how we view adversity. Instead of seeing only suffering, we can see it as an opportunity to learn and grow. A failure can be a valuable lesson, a loss can deepen our appreciation of what remains. With this shift, we are no longer victims of circumstance but students of life. Finally, gratitude nurtures connection. When we express thankfulness to others, even in small words or gestures, we plant seeds of kindness and love. These seeds not only enrich our own lives but spread positivity to those around us. And in this process, we discover true peace. In life, no one can escape moments of pain, loss, or disappointment. However, The difference lies not in the degree of suffering we endure, but in how we choose to perceive and use those experiences. Buddhism teaches that suffering, when received correctly, can become precious material for growth and for finding deeper meaning in life. When facing pain, the common reactions are avoidance, denial, or complaint. But it is precisely when we pause, bravely observe, and accept our suffering that we discover the lessons it holds. A failure may reveal a weakness to improve. A loss may help us understand the value of love. A crisis may open the door to the question, what truly matters to me? Pain also has the power to awaken compassion. Having suffered ourselves, we more easily empathize with the suffering of others. This deepens human connection and teaches us to live with kindness instead of selfish desires. Another important aspect is that pain forces us inward. When the outside world can no longer provide support, we must find strength within. This is the opportunity to practice mindfulness, cultivate wisdom, and build enduring spiritual strength. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we can shift the question to, "What is this trying to teach me?" This change transforms suffering into a silent teacher, guiding us toward growth, understanding, and freedom. In seeking meaning, we not only overcome suffering but also discover the depth and beauty of human existence. After facing trials, learning to control emotions, and finding meaning in pain, we gradually reach a deeper stage of spiritual maturity, becoming a silent warrior. This is not the image of someone constantly fighting externally, but a state of inner resilience, peace, and determination amid life's storms. A silent warrior does not need to prove themselves or seek validation from others. Their true strength comes from the ability to keep the mind still amidst noise, untouched by praise or blame, victory or defeat. They understand that their value is not in what others say but in the freedom and serenity within. A silent warrior also acts wisely rather than impulsively. They do not waste energy on meaningless conflicts but focus on the essence, living true to their values, doing meaningful work, and keeping their heart open. Their power lies in discipline, in observation, and in choosing the right response in every situation. Most importantly, those who reach this state are no longer obsessed with controlling everything. They accept what lies beyond their reach and focus only on what they can change, themselves. This attitude allows them to walk lightly yet firmly, unbound by fear or anxiety. Becoming a silent warrior means learning to be both strong and humble, resilient and compassionate. There is no need for noise to prove strength, for stillness itself is the most powerful proof. Within that stillness, we find true freedom, an unshakable inner power. Life will always bring moments that knock us down. But what truly matters is not how many times we fall, but what we learn each time we rise. Every challenge, every pain is an opportunity to train, making our will stronger, our emotions steadier, our wisdom clearer, and our soul more deeply at peace. On this journey, we come to realize that true strength does not come from noise, nor from outward victories, but from mastering ourselves, living true to our core values, and remaining still amidst the storms. To become a silent warrior does not mean to stop fighting, but to fight in a different way, quietly, persistently, patiently, and with wisdom. And when we have become silent warriors, we will see that no challenge can ever defeat us again. For in stillness, we find indestructible strength, in inner peace, we find true freedom. The path may be long and full of thorns, but it is the very path that leads us to the noblest essence of humanity, resilience, wisdom, and compassion.
Thank you for watching until the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to watch more interesting videos.